From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Exit Planning Coach podcast. And today we have as our guest Helen Stephens. Helen founded Aspen Wealth Management as a fee-only planning firm with locations in Fort Worth and Southlake, Texas. She has a team of 7 that serves 240 client families. Helen is a CFP, a certified financial planner, and is also an enrolled agent, as well as a CEPA, a certified exit planning advisor. She has 30 years of financial expertise. Helen received her finance degree from the Cox School of Business at SMU and has been quoted in publications including the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. She also is actively involved with Habitat for Humanity, one of my favorite community efforts. I have swung many a hammer on many a nail on Habitat houses. Really appreciate you doing that. You recently served as board president for your local Habitat chapter, right?
Good.
So, welcome, and thank you for coming on the Exit Planning Coach podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So let's circle back to that women in money. What particularly do you concentrate on? Most of the guys I know would say that the women they are married to have a close familiarity with money, but that would be probably a gender-biased opinion.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why women and money are an important topic, but for starters, in my realm as a certified financial planner, only about 20% of the industry is women.
Right.
So there's not a lot of female, practitioners for women to choose from. Yes, it's true that a lot of women are the ones that are paying the bills for their households, but by and large, if they're a married couple, then the man tends to gravitate more toward the investments and the savings and all of that. What we have found, I thought when I started this firm that I would have all these women coming in that are single or divorced or recently widowed. And really what I found is that it's more, and while we have, plenty of clients like that we enjoy working with, what we've really found is that we're a firm for women and the men who love them. We get these couples coming in who the husband is worried that if something should happen to him, that she would be left without continuity or help or expertise for the investments and the planning. And so it's just worked that we have wonderful families in our practice and the women feel really comfortable. I mean, we have both genders for advisors in our practice, but certainly they feel comfortable being able to come in and talk to a fellow female, and they don't feel like their questions are being judged or, there's no condescending, there's no stupid questions.
No mansplaining.
No mansplaining. It's good friends having a meaningful conversation and education. And so that's really what we want, is a comfortable atmosphere.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that. We recently had a guest on whose first experience in exit planning was a widow whose husband was the center of the business and who had passed away unexpectedly. Certainly, one I dealt with myself with a client just within the last few weeks. And let me ask you, what brought you into exit planning? You've been financial planning for a long time, but what made you decide to specialize in exits?
Well, a couple of things. I'd become more interested in it just because it was showing up in my practice. And I thought, I have a gap in my knowledge here that I really need to address if I'm going to do a good job. For families. I mean, we retire plan for a lot of different people, but we just seem to have been gravitating more business owners coming in, needing financial planning. But then I had a very pivotal event in December of 2016 My own dad, who was a serial entrepreneur, died unexpectedly. And while the financial planner daughter had been encouraging some succession planning or any kind of a plan really for some time, it never occurred. And so beginning in December of 2016, I found myself running my dad's companies for the benefit of my mother, on top of running and growing Aspen Wealth Management. It's been a very stressful 5 years, but we finally have things under control and in a better way. And so I'm glad to be on the other side of the crisis, but I can certainly, I just recently, in fact, worked with a company. It's a real estate type enterprise in the DFW area, and they're working on their plan, and they have several partners. And one of the partners very clearly said to me, well, I'm not sure. I know that they want to retire and they want to exit and they want to do what they want to do, but I'm not so sure that I wouldn't want my estate to keep this and do that. And I said, let me tell you something. I've been in the shoes of your children. Think about that for just a second. Nobody's saying that you have to not work, but you better have a plan in case something happens to you or when something happens to you, because you're not going to be immortal. And I think my own personal experience in dealing with that was really meaningful and really stopped him in his tracks to think, you're right. I don't want my kids to have to pick up pieces when they're, one, not equipped, not qualified. So it really changed the conversation.
I think there are a few things as powerful as being able to draw on personal experience.
Right.
And say, I've been there. When you describe your typical first meeting with a new client prospect, somebody, not a financial planning prospect, if this was somebody that they, one of your centers of influence perhaps calls you up and say, I've got a business owner that was just in here talking to me about planning for an exit, and I told them they needed to talk to you. What is that meeting going to look like for you?
Well, understand, John, that all of our conversations are focused on financial planning.
Sure.
Even the ones with a business owner. So to me, that initial meeting isn't really very different, except we're going to talk more about their business and their, I'm focused more on the qualitative than the quantitative at that point. In fact, we have a questionnaire that we ask people to fill out before they come in to meet us for the first time. It's not super lengthy. I mean, people can always back up the numbers. That's really not what I'm most interested in. But I ask them questions like, what's important about money to you and what do you value most in life? And that just opens the door to kind of figure out where people's thoughts are. But, the conversations we get into is, okay, well, you successfully sold your business and congratulations, you've come back from your first vacation and you're back in real life without going to this business that you've built. What do those days look like? I mean, what are your interests? What are the things that you hope to fill your time doing when you're not going to work all the time? And really concentrating and delving more into those topics with them, so that they can really make sure that this is what they want to do, is to hang it up, give it up. Or if they want to continue to work in a consultative role and kind of have a step down retirement. And then, of course, it all backs into, can you afford to retire? I mean, there's a case we're working on that has a pretty large value gap there. And they're going to need to really bring up the value of that business to be able to accomplish the retirement goals that this couple has. And so it's really kind of finding out what does life look like so we can put some price tags around that and then be able to back it into the exit plan and the financial plan at the same time.
Yeah, we the mission of this podcast, and I'm afraid I'm going to wind up saying it so many times, as you know, there are 2 surveys out now that show that 75% of owners are either unhappy or have regrets a year after they exit. And we strongly believe, and that's the whole exit planning coach philosophy, is that we have to be deeper with our clients. We have to be talking to them more about life after the business. It's not just Oh, hey, you want $5 million in 3 years? Okay, let's get the pen out and figure out $5 million in 3 years.
Yeah.
That doesn't do it. And you indicated already, it's the lack of direction, it's the lack of purpose, it's the lack of identity, it's all these other things that business owners are unhappy about a year later because they don't know who they are anymore.
Right. Well, they think they can leave the business and that, yeah, they sense that the stress is going to be gone, but they do, lose that lack of identity, like you mentioned. And depression is very real. I mean, we've even seen it, people coming out of, long time corporate roles where they've been with the same company. It doesn't happen as much anymore. But the lifers, who have been at a good corporation for a long, long time, I mean, that's their social circle. That's like their extended family. That's, when they look in the mirror, that what looks back at them.
Sure.
And so, yes, I think those conversations about, what do you value? What are the things that are interesting to you? How do you hope to fill those hours are really important.
Yeah, in one of my books, I referred to reverse depression because it's so hard to describe for an owner. But I first had it when an owner came to me and he said, I just took a 2-week vacation and nobody called me. And I got back and I went around to all my managers. I said, you need me for anything? And they said, nope, we're good. And the company did fine and it made money and everybody's rocking along.
Yeah.
And I spent 20 years trying to get to this point and I thought it would feel a lot better than it does.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, my business coach, has a third act, what he calls his third act coaching practice, which is interesting. He works with, high achieving business owners who are going to need to identify what's next.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for people to have some kind of a resource to explore that with someone professionally before they sell the business. So that they have that vision kind of mapped out before they hit that, disappointment phase.
Excellent point. I want to talk about that a little bit more, but I'm going to cut us off for a minute here and just give the people who pay for this thing a chance to pitch their goods for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to be right back.
How would your practice survive if only 25% of your clients were happy with your work? How many referrals would you get? Would you advertise that success rate? Over the last decade, both the Exit Planning Institute and PwC have surveyed owners and found that 75% were profoundly unhappy a year after their exits. In 10 years, the exit planning industry has done little to fix this issue. Business owners need purpose, direction, and activity after exiting. Planning for that starts with your very first coaching conversation. We work with advisors who believe that clients should be happy after exiting. ExitMap is a structured discovery process that helps you have deeper conversations about client options, objectives, and life after the business. We help you launch better transitions. Take a test drive at exitmap.com.
Welcome back. I'm here with Helen Stephens of Aspen Wealth Management. We've been talking about specifically about business owners and their life after the business. That's such an important factor that we all talk about. Helen, I wanted to ask you, how do you market for clients? This is a big thing when we talk to new CEPAs, when we talk to people just entering the exit planning business. They say, gee, I say something about exit planning and the business owner says, yeah, that's something I need to be doing. I say, well, let's set up an appointment. They say, well, I'm kind of busy right now. How do you get in front of clients? Is it principally referrals? Is it from other clients, from other professionals? How do you go about marketing?
It's really all of the above. Years ago, when I started Aspen, it was search engine optimization was a very new concept, right? Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate enough to be able to meet a gentleman who has been doing Aspen's SEO literally for a decade. And it's done quite well for us. So people find us pretty readily on Google. In terms of the exit planning piece, we're still working on that. I mean, it's still for us really in its infancy as I see it, compared to what I hope it will be 5 years from now. I think that portion of our business will just continue to grow. So I'm pretty intentional about my networking, either through EPI here locally, some good resources there, business brokers in my community, but certainly centers of influence who do a lot of the tax and accounting work for small businesses.
Sure.
That's really been my, now that we're coming out of COVID and can, network again effectively, getting back together with those professionals and sharing with them what we're trying to accomplish and do. And in fact, another one of my centers of influence just introduced me to an attorney who really spends most of his time doing contracts for exits. So, I mean, you just continue to network your way through and hope that eventually you build up enough of a pipeline that it pays off.
I could use that attorney's name, by the way. I need one that doesn't charge $10,000 to do a simple buy-sell agreement. Fortunately, my last two clients picked their attorney, but so it wasn't my fault. He charged them $10,000 for a buy-sell agreement, but it was a little bit out of hand.
Yeah.
So you go to talk to one of these prospects. Somebody's referred them to you, and you go to. Do you have something in particular that you say to them? You talked about continuity planning. That was, having the experience of being a child that was stuck with a company that nobody was ready to run. What other arguments do you use, or do you have another key argument that you say to a business owner to get them start today? Because so many of them, it's kind of like funeral pre-planning. Yeah, I know I should do it, but I can do that tomorrow.
Right. Well, John, I feel like in general, my initial appointments, I really try hard to listen more than I speak, because I get so much info. I can get people to open up if I can just make myself be quiet. I'm a chatty Cathy. I love visiting with people, but really, if I can get in front of somebody, that time is really about them and finding out what's important to them and the drivers of their success and the things that have made them happy and have gotten their businesses to this point. Obviously, most are very, very proud of what they've built. And so just learning more about what that looks like and kind of have they met their goals for what they set out to do. And so again, those first appointments for me, if I'm lucky enough to get the referral and have the opportunity to sit down, it's really just learning more. I mean, who doesn't love to talk about themselves? So once you get people on a roll, it typically is a great way to kind of cement a relationship. And I don't see any engagement as a sprint. I see it as a marathon. It's a long relationship that you're going to go through, whether it's going through the ExitMap process with them and identifying kind of the weaknesses to their ability to make an exit, or finding out things about their family that we need to have as financial planning challenges, whether it's special needs kids, or grandchildren, or, every family has stuff. And so it's really like figuring out what that stuff is all about.
Yeah. I'm finishing up a new book on coaching in an exit planning situation. I'm using quotes from coaches. And one of them is from Dale Carnegie. And he said, "So by being quiet, he came to the conclusion that I was a great conversationalist."
Yeah, right.
Helen, you are a specialist in financial planning, and you've got a special expertise in unexpected family events. You know that this is a team game. We all say it takes a village. None of us has all the expertise to do a full exit plan for a business. If somebody wanted to take advantage, if another advisor wanted to bring you in because of your special experience, can we have your contact information, please?
Sure.
How do we get a hold of you?
Sure. Anyone can email into info@aspenwealthmgmt.com. and that'll come right into our office, and we'll be glad to take great care of you. My direct dial line here at Aspen Wealth is 817-984-5907. And that's my direct line in. So you don't have to go through our menu to try to find me.
That'd be great. And what's your website?
AspenWealthMGMT.com.
Okay.
If you Google Aspen Wealth Management in Fort Worth, you can't miss us.
Great. And what would you advise another financial planner that was thinking about, let's say, not in your market, not in Fort Worth area, somebody you run into at a conference from Cincinnati, and they say, "Oh, you do exit planning too? Do you think I should do that?" What would be your recommendation to another financial planner?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, otherwise you're cutting off a huge section of the market that really, really needs our services. It's so complex. I'm working through a case right now. And there's so many pieces that are intertwined. And I think if you haven't really studied the art and the science of exit planning for businesses, you probably should not be the one giving advice to that client, because you're just not going to have the skill set or the knowledge set to be able to pull that team together, to pull together those other great resources to help them make the best exit possible.
Yeah. Well, and as I say to financial planners all the time, you know that for most of your business owner clients, 50% or more of their net worth is in the company.
Yes.
How can you claim to be doing holistic planning if you're not looking at the company's ability to finance the plan?
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And that's the conclusion that I came to several years ago when I bid off studying for the CEPA. And I wanted to get a good foundation to where then I felt like I could bring something to the table, more than just show me the zeros, bring me your fat valuation or whatever. Now I feel much more comfortable and confident working alongside those clients than I did before, without question.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you for having me, John.
It was a joy, and I look forward to doing it again. As we go forward, we'll be getting more into specific topics, and maybe we can have a topic. Family succession would probably be a really good one to invite you back for.
I would love to help if I can. If I can save another family from the last 5 years of what I've been through, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully the next 5 years will be a lot better.
Oh, it will. Thanks for the time, John.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.